Alright, now what we're going to do is shorten a control cable. I have a old clutch cable here that I'm just going to chop for demonstration purposes. Let's say you want to make this a little shorter. What we're going to do, we're going to cut the barrel off. We're going to take this little sleevey deal off and we'll reuse it. Then you're going to cut your sleeve. Now we're going to measure. We're going to see how far you need here. So we know, oh, it needs to be 3 inches. 3 inches from here to here. So when we cut that, you make the cable again that size. So first thing I'm going to do is cut the cable. Alright, cable's cut. So I'm going to pull the cable back through. And let's say, for argument's sake, that we want to take off 2 inches. There we go. It's nice and clean now. So we have that. It's now shortened, and we now know that this sticks out 3 inches. Take it, and I'm going to cut it to 3 inches. So, we have the cable. It's now the right size. It's a little bit shorter. We want to put this ferrule back on. So what we're going to do is turn on the torque, move it up. Pull it off. Easy as can be. This is trash, this gets thrown out. Okay, I've got an old drill bit and I've taken the little cap. I'm going to put it on here. And we're just going to work it a little bit. Right. There. Now it'll fit back on our cable end. Alright, so we have the ferrule back on, or the little cap back on. Just going to make sure it's on nice and good. You could probably heat it up again if you wanted. And then got some coaxial crimpers, and we're just going to re-crimp it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our old ferrule and I'm going to use my drill press to drill a hole through there. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how to solder it on. Okay, the next step, now that we have our cable shortened, and what I did was I drilled out the old ferrule and I countersunk it, and then I put it on the end here and I just splayed out with pair of pliers. I just splayed out these little ends so that's going to make a nice knot for the solder to get into and keep it in place, and then I will round it over when we're done. You can reuse these. You can also buy them like from Flanders, or you can make them out of round stock, whatever you kind of prefer. Now as far as what solder to use, that's the most important part. You want to use nothing with a flux core. So no rosin core, no acid core, nothing for electronics, nothing for plumbing. This is 50-50, 50 tin, 50 lead. 60-40 also works really well, probably better than this, but this is what I have and it works fine. No core, so you do need some flux. I like this ruby fluid. It's for stained glass. It works really well. What now, as far as the method to do this, easiest way is use a solder pot. But of course you and I don't have solder pots. So you basically have to transfer the heat, you know, from a soldering iron or something onto here. You do not want to use a torch directly on here. It'll get far too hot, far too fast. It will not work. So what I do, is just something I invented. I take a piece of copper flashing and I put it on my side grill here, and I notice that it's just about the right temperature. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I've got an oven thermometer that's telling me that it's right. Now what I've done, I've previously cleaned all this with acetone, so you want to get all the grease and oils off. Next thing you want to do is take your solder paste, or your flux paste rather, and get some flux in there. Get it down in the barrel. Alright, now we're going to take this, it's all fluxed, it's ready to roll. I'm going to put it right on here like this. I'm going to get it nice and hot. That's going to cook. It's going to cook out the flux. Then I'm going to use my solder on it. Now, it's very important that you don't touch the solder to the plate. It'll start melting and you get a cold joint, and then it's going to pop off and it's just not going to work. So I'm going to let this heat up. Alright, it's filled. We're going to clean it up, and that's about it. Okay, it's all cleaned up. It'll work well. It's nice and shiny. If it's dull, it means it's a cold solder joint. It's not going to work, so you're going to heat it up and pull it back off. This looks good. This will do the job. The only thing I want to say is one of the reasons you don't use a torch straight on here is you don't want to make the cable itself too brittle. So that's why you make sure the melting point for this solder is about 420 degrees. I think 60-40 is a little higher than that. But so, you know, that's why I used an oven thermometer. Make sure I had the right temperature. You don't want to go too high. And there you have it. Easy as can be. If you want to change it to a different style ferrule, you can do that. However you want to do it. But there you go.